Qur'an, Chapter 81, Surah At-Takwir by Sayyid Qutb. Translation by Muhammad Al-Amrani. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. When the sun is folded up, and the stars lose their luster, when the mountains are set in motion, and the pregnant she-camels are left untended, when the wild beasts are gathered together, and the seas overflow with flame, when souls are paired, and the buried infant is questioned, for what sin was she slain? When the scrolls are laid open, and the sky is stripped away, when hellfire blazes fiercely, and paradise is brought near, each soul will know what it has brought forth. But no, I swear by the stars that retreat, that run their course and disappear, by the night as it darkens, and the dawn as it breathes, indeed, this is the word of a noble messenger, endowed with power, secure with the sustainer of the throne, obeyed there and trustworthy. And your companion is not mad. Indeed, he saw him on the clear horizon, and he is not stingy with the unseen. Nor is this the word of an accursed devil. So where are you going? This is nothing but a reminder to the worlds, for whoever among you wills to walk straight. But you will not will, except as God wills, the Lord of all the worlds. This surah, composed of two distinct sections, addresses two profound truths of faith, each presented with a grandeur that stirs the soul. The first truth is the reality of the resurrection, an event of such cosmic upheaval that it will overturn the very fabric of existence. The sun, the stars, the mountains, the seas, the earth, and the heavens, all will be engulfed in a cataclysmic transformation. Even the beasts of the earth, and the souls of humanity, will not be spared from this all-encompassing change. The second truth is the reality of divine revelation, and the nature of the angel who bears it, the prophet who receives it, and the people to whom it is addressed. It also speaks to the mighty will that has created humanity and bestowed upon them this revelation. The overall rhythm of this surah is like a sweeping tempest, unleashed to overturn all things, scattering everything in its path. It agitates the tranquil, terrifies the secure, and sweeps away all that is familiar. It shakes the human soul violently, uprooting it from all that it clings to for comfort, leaving it as a feather in the storm of this destructive force, weightless, without anchor, with no refuge or safety except in the shelter of the One, the All-Powerful, whose existence alone endures, and with whom alone lies peace and stability. Thus, by its very cadence, this surah tears the soul away from all it trusts and leans on, compelling it to seek refuge in God, to find solace in His protection, and to turn to Him for safety and tranquility. Moreover, this surah is rich with magnificent imagery, whether drawn from this wondrous universe we perceive or from that day of judgment when all creation will be turned upside down. It is also abundant in eloquent expressions, meticulously chosen to color its scenes and rhythms. These elements converge within the limited space of the surah, pressing upon the senses and penetrating deeply with powerful suggestion. Were it not for the fact that some words and phrases in the original text have become unfamiliar and unclear to readers of our time, I would have preferred to let the surah convey, through its own rhythm, images, and shadows, the truths and scenes that no human translation can fully capture. The surah itself strikes the chords of the heart, shaking them to their very depths. But necessity dictates otherwise, for in our time we have grown distant from the familiar language of the Qur'an. When the sun is wrapped up in darkness, when the stars lose their luster, when the mountains are set in motion, when the pregnant camels are abandoned, when the wild beasts are gathered together, when the seas are set ablaze, when souls are paired with their deeds, when the girl-child buried alive is asked for what sin she was slain, when the scrolls of deeds are laid open, when the sky is stripped away, when hellfire is set ablaze, and when paradise is brought near, then every soul will know what it has brought forth. This is the scene of total upheaval, of a universal revolution that engulfs all existence. The heavenly bodies and the earth, the wild beasts and the domesticated animals, human souls, and the state of affairs, all will be overturned. Every hidden thing will be revealed, every unknown will be made known, and each soul will stand before what it has prepared, facing the ultimate judgment. Amidst this tumult, everything around it will be in turmoil, everything around it will be upended. These colossal cosmic events signal that the universe as we know it, a harmonious, beautiful, and precisely balanced cosmos, meticulously crafted and held together, will one day come undone. Its parts will scatter, its attributes will vanish, and it will reach its predetermined end. Then, creation will transition to a new form of existence, a new life, and new realities, utterly different from those known in this familiar world. This is what the Surah seeks to instill in the hearts and minds, so they may detach from these fleeting appearances, no matter how stable they seem, and connect with the enduring truth, the truth of God, who does not change or perish, even as all else changes and vanishes. It urges the soul to break free from the confines of the familiar in this observed universe and ascend to the absolute reality, unbound by time, space, sight, or perception, unrestricted by any form or limitation. This is the overwhelming feeling that seeps into the soul as it contemplates the scenes of this dreaded upheaval. As for the true nature of what will befall all these creatures, its knowledge rests with God. It is a reality far beyond our current grasp, bound as we are by the limitations of our senses and the confines of our earthly thoughts. The most significant upheavals we know are when the earth quakes with a devastating tremor, when a volcano erupts violently from its depths, when a meteor descends upon the earth, or when a bolt of lightning strikes. The most catastrophic deluge humanity has witnessed was the Great Flood, and the most intense cosmic events recorded were partial explosions on the Sun, hundreds of millions of miles away. Yet all these pale in comparison to the vast, all-encompassing upheaval of the day of resurrection. They are but child's play. If we must grasp something of what will occur to these creatures, we can only approximate it with expressions drawn from the familiar experiences of this life. The veiling of the Sunday may signify its cooling, the extinguishing of its flame, and the contraction of its fiery tongues that now stretch thousands of miles into space. As seen through observatories during an eclipse, the Sun, normally a seething mass of gases ignited by temperatures reaching 12,000 degrees, could become a cold, solid sphere, shrunken and devoid of its fiery extensions. This could be the case, or it could be something else entirely. How this will come to pass, and the factors that will cause it, remain known only to God. The falling of the stars may imply their dispersal from the order that binds them, their flames extinguished, their light darkened. God alone knows which stars will be affected by this event. Will it be a group of stars near us, perhaps our solar system, or even our galaxy with its hundreds of millions of stars? Or will it be all the stars, their numbers and positions known only to God? Beyond what we observe with our telescopes, there are galaxies and vast spaces whose limits we cannot fathom, but there will be stars that will undergo this darkening, as foretold by this truthful revelation, the full reality of which is known only to God. The leveling of the mountains may signify their pulverization, their reduction to dust and dispersion into the air. As described in another surah, they ask you about the mountains. Say, my sustainer will scatter them as dust, and the mountains will be pulverized, turned into dust, and the mountains shall vanish like a mirage. All these verses indicate an event that will cause the mountains to lose their firmness, stability, and cohesion. This could be initiated by the earthquake that will shake the earth, as the Qur'an says, when the earth is shaken with its final earthquake, and the earth brings forth its burdens. These are events that will unfold on that long day. As for his words, when the pregnant camels are neglected. The pregnant camels are those in their 10th month, considered the most precious and valuable possession of the Arab. In this state, they are at their most cherished, as they are expected to give birth and provide milk, their benefits near at hand. Yet, on that day of terrifying events, these camels will be abandoned, their worth forgotten, and no one will care for them. The Arab addressed by this verse would only neglect such camels in the face of something far more dreadful. When the wild beasts are gathered together, these wild creatures, normally scattered and fearful, will be so overwhelmed by terror that they will huddle together, abandoning their instincts and prey, wandering aimlessly, neither returning to their dens nor pursuing their usual hunts. The terror and dread will strip these beasts of their very nature and instincts. How, then, will humans fare in such a terrifying time? And the setting ablaze of the seas may mean they will be filled with waters, perhaps from floods like those that accompanied the birth of the earth and its cooling, as mentioned in Surah An-Nazi'at. Or it could be due to earthquakes and volcanoes that remove the barriers between seas, causing them to merge. Or it may mean their ignition and eruption, as stated elsewhere when the seas burst forth. This could involve the separation of hydrogen from oxygen, or the splitting of their atoms, akin to the atomic explosions we know, but on a far greater scale. When this occurs, unimaginable fires will erupt from the seas, their magnitude beyond human comprehension. If the explosion of a small amount of atoms in an atomic or hydrogen bomb causes the devastation we have seen, what will happen when the atoms of the seas are ignited? The human mind cannot conceive of the horror, the inferno that will emerge from these vast oceans. The pairing of souls might mean the reunion of spirits with their bodies after their recreation. It could also signify the grouping of like souls into categories, as mentioned elsewhere, and you were in 3 groups, referring to the 3 types: the foremost in faith, the companions of the right, and the companions of the left. Or it could refer to other groupings of similar nature. And when the female infant, buried alive, is asked for what sin she was killed, this verse evokes the deep degradation of human dignity during the era of Jahiliyyah, when the heinous practice of burying newborn daughters alive was widespread, driven by fear of shame or poverty. The Quran vividly portrays this atrocity, forever marking it as a stain upon the pre-Islamic society, which Islam came to uplift, raising not only the Arabs but all of humanity from such a wretched state. The Quran recounts this abomination with words that cut through the heart, and when one of them is informed of the birth of a female, his face darkens, and he suppresses his grief. He hides himself from the people because of the ill of which he has been informed. Shall he keep her in humiliation or bury her in the ground? How evil is what they decide. And in another verse, and when one of them is given the news of that which he attributes to the Most Merciful as an example, daughters, his face darkens, and he is filled with grief. What? One who is brought up in ornaments and is not seen in disputes. And again, do not kill your children for fear of poverty. We provide for them and for you. The act of burying daughters was a barbaric ritual, carried out with heartless cruelty. Some would allow the girl to live until she was 6, then instruct the mother to adorn her, claiming he would take her to visit her relatives. But he would lead her to a pit in the desert, tell her to peer into it, and then push her in, burying her alive. Others, when labor began, would dig a hole, and if the newborn was a girl, she would be cast into it and buried. If a boy, the mother would rise with him. Some, who chose not to bury their daughters, kept them in degradation until they were old enough to tend the flocks, dressing them in wool or hair garments and sending them to graze the camels in the desolate wilderness. Those who did not bury their daughters or send them to graze had other ways of demeaning them. If a woman married and her husband died, his heir would throw his garment over her, claiming her for himself. This meant that no one else could marry her unless he chose to do so himself, regardless of her wishes. If she displeased him, he would imprison her until she died, inheriting her wealth. Or he would force her to ransom herself with whatever wealth she possessed. In some cases, if a man divorced his wife, he would demand that she not remarry anyone except by his consent, unless she paid him to be released from this condition. In other cases, when a man died, his widow was held captive until a child among his heirs grew up and took her for himself. If a man had an orphan girl in his care, he might withhold her from marriage, hoping his own wife would die so he could marry the orphan or marry her to his young son to gain her wealth or beauty. Such was the view of women in the age of Jahiliyyah until Islam came, denouncing these practices, condemning them with the strongest of terms, and forbidding infanticide, making it a matter for which people would be held accountable on the Day of Judgment. The Quran places the questioning of the buried infant amidst the terrifying events of the Day of Resurrection, as though it were a cosmic event of immense significance. The infant will be asked for what crime she was killed, so what of those who buried her? The dignity of women could never have emerged from the environment of Jahiliyyah, were it not for the divine law that descended, bringing with it the honor of all humanity, elevating both men and women to their rightful place as bearers of the divine spirit. It was from this divine source that the dignity of women was established by Islam, not from any worldly influence. With the birth of this new humanity, drawing its values from the heavens rather than the earth, women attained their rightful dignity. Their physical weakness and the burdens of life they bore within their families no longer weighed against their worth. For these are not the values of the heavens, and they hold no weight in its scales. What matters is the noble human spirit, connected to God, and in this, both men and women are equal. When enumerating the signs that this religion is from God, and that its messenger is divinely inspired, the transformation in the status of women stands as one of the unmistakable signs. There was nothing in the environment that could have led to the elevation of women to such dignity, nor was there any earthly motivation, especially in economic terms, that could have brought about this change. It was solely the divine guidance that established this new status, rooted in heavenly values and measured by heavenly standards alone. And when the scrolls of deeds are spread open, on that day, the records of every soul's actions will be unveiled, laid bare for all to see. No longer hidden, no longer obscured, each deed will stand exposed to the light. This public revelation will strike at the very heart, for how many shameful acts, long buried in secrecy, cause their doer to shudder even at the thought of them. How much more terrifying, then, when these hidden sins are laid open for all to witness on that day. This disclosure, this unveiling of what was once concealed, is one of the many terrors of that day. It is a hallmark of the great upheaval, where all that was hidden is brought to light, and the secrets of hearts are laid bare. Just as the secrets of the soul are exposed, so too shall the universe be stripped of its veils. And when the sky is stripped away, the very heavens, that dome stretched high above our heads, will be removed. How this will happen, and by what means, we cannot say for certain. But we can imagine looking up and finding no vault above, no sky to gaze upon, a stark result of some cosmic shift, altering the very fabric of the universe. And this thought alone is enough to fill one with awe. Then comes the final stage of that dreadful day, and when hellfire is set ablaze. And when paradise is brought near. Hell, with its fires stoked and blazing, its heat and fury intensified, where is it? How does it blaze, and what fuels it? We know only the words of God. Its fuel is men and stones, cast into it by its inhabitants. But before this, what fuels it, and how it burns only God knows. And paradise, drawn near to its rightful dwellers, prepared and made ready for them, its entrance smooth and welcoming. The very word suggests a gentle glide, a swift and easy passage for those destined to enter. When these mighty events unfold, changing the very nature of existence, altering the states of the living and the dead, then will every soul know with certainty the truth of its deeds, the provisions it has prepared for this day, the burdens it carries for judgment. Every soul will know what it has brought forth. Each soul will know, in that overwhelming moment, what it has carried with it, what it has earned, what it owes. It will know, surrounded by the terror of that day, engulfed by its overwhelming power. It will know, and yet be utterly powerless to alter what it has brought forth, unable to add or subtract from it. It will know, separated from all that was familiar in life, from all it once knew or imagined. Everything will have changed, everything will have been transformed, and nothing will remain but the face of the Almighty, who neither changes nor is altered. How then, could the soul not turn towards the face of God, the most noble, seeking Him when all else is in flux? And with this solemn cadence, the first part of the surah reaches its close, leaving the heart overflowing with the images of that day when the great upheaval will take place. Then comes the second part, beginning with a solemn oath, invoking the beauty of celestial scenes, described in elegant terms, a sacred oath upon the nature of revelation, the character of the messenger who bears it, and the stance of humanity in response, all according to the will of God. So, I swear by the retreating stars, those that glide and hide, and by the night as it darkens, and by the dawn as it breathes its first light, this indeed is the word of a noble messenger, endowed with strength, secure in the presence of the throne, obeyed and trustworthy. And your companion is not mad. Truly, he saw him on the clear horizon, and he is not stingy with the unseen. Nor is this the word of an accursed devil. So where are you going? This is nothing but a reminder to all worlds, for those among you who wish to take the straight path. But you will not will, except as God, the sustainer of all the worlds, wills, by the retreating, gliding, and concealing ones. These are the stars, which, in their celestial dance, seem to retract in their orbit, moving with grace, like gazelles that dart and hide. The expression imbues these stars with a vivid life. There is a sense of beauty in their movement, in their concealment and reappearance, in their fleeting presence and sudden return. This delicate elegance is reflected in the very rhythm and sound of the words, and by the night as it darkens. The word itself evokes a sense of encroaching shadow, as if the night is a living being, advancing stealthily through the darkness, unseen but felt, a remarkable, vivid choice of expression, and by the dawn as it breathes. Here, the morning is alive, exhaling light, bringing life and motion to all that it touches. There is a unique vitality in this image, a sense that the dawn itself inhales and exhales, filling the world with light and life. Indeed, the Arabic language, with all its expressive beauty, holds nothing quite like this depiction of the morning. It almost makes the heart believe that the dawn truly breathes. This expression captures the essence of the scene in a way that resonates deeply with the sensitive heart. Anyone who appreciates the beauty of language and imagery will recognize that the words, "So I swear by the retreating stars, those that glide and hide, and by the night as it darkens, and by the dawn as it breathes," are a treasure trove of emotional and expressive richness. Beyond their cosmic implications, they add an exquisite, graceful beauty to the treasury of human emotions, as we witness these celestial phenomena with an awakened soul. Through these vivid cosmic scenes, endowed with life and connected to the human spirit, the words reveal their secrets, hint at the power behind them, and speak of the truth of the faith to which they call. Then, this truth is mentioned in the most fitting context. This is indeed the word of a noble messenger, endowed with strength, secure in the presence of the throne, obeyed and trustworthy. This Qur'an, and this description of the day of resurrection, are indeed the words of a noble messenger, Gabriel, who carried and conveyed these words, making them his by transmission. The attributes of this messenger are then mentioned, honored by his sustainer, strong in his role, secure in his position before the throne of the Most High, obeyed by those in the highest assembly, and utterly trustworthy in his mission. These qualities, taken together, imply the nobility, grandeur, and exalted nature of this message. They also indicate God's care for humanity, for he chose this noble messenger to carry the revelation to the chosen prophet. Such divine care humbles this being, who would be nothing in the grand scheme of God's creation, were it not for the grace and honor bestowed upon him by the Most High. Thus, we learn about the messenger who brought the message. As for the messenger who delivered it to you, he is your companion, you have known him well for a lifetime. Why then, when he brings you the truth, do you say what you say about him? Why do you doubt him and stray in your judgment, when he is your companion whom you know so well? He is the trustworthy one who speaks to you of the unseen with certainty, and your companion is not mad. Truly, he saw him on the clear horizon, and he is not stingy with the unseen. Nor is this the word of an accursed devil. So where are you going? This is nothing but a reminder to all worlds. Yet they said of the noble prophet, whom they knew well, and whose wisdom, truthfulness, and trustworthiness were beyond doubt, they said he was mad, that a devil whispered these words to him. Some said this out of malice, to undermine him and his message, as reported in the traditions. Others said it out of astonishment, bewildered by these words that no human could have uttered according to their understanding. They assumed, as they did with poets and soothsayers, that some devil must be behind such unique speech, for that was their only explanation for the extraordinary. But they overlooked the one true explanation, that it is a revelation from the Sustainer of all the worlds. Thus, the Qur'an speaks to them in this passage, drawing their attention to the exquisite beauty of the universe, to the vibrant scenes of creation. It subtly hints to their hearts that this Qur'an emerges from the same creative power that fashioned this unparalleled beauty, reminding them of the messenger who brought it and the messenger who conveyed it, he who is their companion, whom they know well, and who is certainly not mad. He is the one who beheld the noble messenger, Gabriel, with true vision, on the clear, unmistakable horizon, where certainty and clarity are manifest. He is indeed entrusted with the unseen, and no doubts should cloud his report, for they have known him only for his truthfulness and absolute conviction. This is not the word of an accursed devil, for the devils do not inspire such a straight and upright path. And so, it questions them with astonishment, where, then, are you going? Where are you going in your judgments and words? Or where do you turn, fleeing from the truth that confronts you no matter where you go? This is nothing but a reminder for all the worlds, a reminder that calls them to the truth of their existence, the truth of their origin, and the truth of the universe around them. It is a reminder for all the worlds, for this is a universal call from its very inception, even as the message in Makkah was surrounded and persecuted, as such Makkan texts testify. Amid this precise and inspiring discourse, it reminds them that the path to guidance is made easy for those who seek it, placing the responsibility upon them, for God has granted them this ease. For whoever among you wills to take the straight path, to walk straight upon the guidance of God, upon the path that leads to Him, after such clarity that dispels every doubt, negates every uncertainty, and leaves no excuse. It whispers to the sound heart the way of righteousness. And so, whoever does not walk straight is accountable for their deviation, for they had before them the opportunity to walk upright. In reality, the signs of guidance and the impulses of faith within the soul and the horizons are so powerful, so profound, and so compelling that it is difficult for the heart to escape their pressure except with deliberate effort. Especially when they hear these directions in the evocative, awakening style of the Qur'an. None turns away from the path of God after this except those who wish to stray, without any valid excuse or justification. And so, after confirming the possibility of guidance and the ease of walking straight, the Qur'an returns to affirm the great truth behind their will, the truth that the active will behind everything is the will of God, the Sustainer of all the worlds. And you do not will except that God, the Sustainer of all the worlds, wills. This is so they do not misunderstand and think that their will is independent of the greater will, to which all matters ultimately return. Their freedom of choice and the ease of guidance they are granted are all due to that divine will, encompassing everything that was or will be. These verses, which the Qur'an often follows with a mention of the will of creatures, are meant to correct the believer's understanding, to encompass the great truth, that everything in existence ultimately returns to the will of God. The power of choice He grants to humanity is but a part of His will, just as every other decree and management. It is similar to the complete obedience He grants to the angels, who carry out whatever they are commanded. It is part of His will, like giving people the ability to choose between the two paths after being taught and shown the way. This truth must be firmly established in the believer's understanding, so they recognize what is true for its own sake. And so they turn to the greater will, seeking from it help and guidance, connecting with it in everything they undertake and everything they forsake along the way.